The walls of Jericho stood like giants, tall, unshakable, proud. To Israel, they were a fortress of fear, but to God, they were already fallen. Joshua sent 2 spies quietly into the city, not with trumpets, not with armies, but in silence. The spies slipped through the gates as the sun sank low. Jericho buzzed with tension. Rumors had already spread. Israel had crossed the Jordan. Kings had fallen east of the river. And now, they were here. The spies needed shelter. And so they entered the house of a woman named Rahab. Rahab was not a warrior, not a princess, not a prophet. She was an unlikely choice in an unlikely place. But God often writes His greatest stories through unexpected people. That night, the king of Jericho heard of the spies. "Bring out the men," he demanded. "They have come to spy out the land." Soldiers rushed to Rahab's door, but Rahab had already hidden the men beneath bundles of flax on her roof. She stepped outside to meet the soldiers. "Yes," she said calmly, "the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. At dusk they left. If you hurry, you may catch them." The soldiers ran toward the Jordan road, but Rahab went back to the roof. She looked at the spies, 2 strangers who carried the future of a nation. And then she said something remarkable. "I know that the Lord has given you this land. Not your army, not your strength, but your Lord." She had heard what God had done at the Red Sea. She had heard about the kings defeated in the wilderness. Faith had grown in her heart long before Israel's feet reached Jericho soil. "Our hearts melted in fear," she confessed. Then she said words that changed her destiny forever. "For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below." In a city filled with idols, Rahab chose the one true God. She asked for mercy. "Swear to me," she pleaded, "that you will show kindness to my family when you take the city." The spies agreed. "Our lives for yours," they promised. But there would be a sign. A cord. A scarlet cord. Rahab was to tie a red rope in her window, the same window through which she would lower the spies down the wall to safety. "When we see the scarlet cord," they said, "everyone inside this house will be spared." That night, Rahab let them down by a rope. The spies disappeared into the hills. And Rahab did something powerful. She tied the scarlet cord in her window. Not after the battle. Not after proof. Before a single trumpet sounded. Before a single stone fell. She tied it in faith. Days later, Israel surrounded Jericho. The priests blew their trumpets. The people marched. Once a day for 6 days. 7 times on the 7th day. And when Joshua gave the command, the people shouted. And the walls fell. Stone by stone. Tower by tower. Jericho crumbled. But in the midst of dust and destruction, one house still stood. One window still displayed a scarlet cord. One family was saved. Rahab. The spies kept their promise. She and her family were brought safely outside the camp. And Rahab did not remain an outsider. She became part of Israel. More than that, generations later, Rahab's name would appear in the lineage of kings, and in the lineage of the Messiah. The scarlet cord was more than a signal. It was a symbol, a thread of redemption running through history, a reminder that faith can rise in the most unlikely places, and that God sees beyond walls, beyond reputation, beyond past mistakes. When the walls fell, Rahab did not, because faith had already lifted her above them. Soft music rises. Sometimes salvation begins with a single thread of obedience, a simple act of faith, a scarlet cord tied in the window before the miracle arrives. If this story encouraged you, remember, sometimes victory begins before the walls fall. Sometimes it starts with a simple act of faith. Thank you for watching Joshua and the Promised Land. Subscribe for the next chapter in our journey. And remember, even a single thread of faith can change your future.